we're staying in. Well, we're in a hotel room. There's a very real reason for this. Truck broke. So, the literal coldest day, it was -10 this morning, ambient. The coldest day probably of all winter today, weekend actually, and truck breaks on a Friday. Make it back to Sioux Falls, and on Saturday, and I gotta sit till tomorrow. Today's Sunday. I gotta sit till tomorrow so they can fix it. Truck doing a real weird thing. The engine fan was screwing up, so yeah, I took a video of it because I don't think anyone will believe me if I told them. So I discovered that my engine fan tends to, when I turn corners, it goes off. The minute I start going straight, it comes on. But if I hit a good crosswind and the truck leans, it goes off. So I'm thinking it's electrical, but got to get it to the shop. It's 10 below. I can't idle it with the engine fan going. It's so cold. When I was up in Arcadia picking up a drop trailer, the 10 minutes I had it, it went from about 190 down to 140 like that. And it started getting so cold, I was actually really worried about the engine. It can't. And it was only like 10 degrees. It was above freezing. So, yeah, we can't have that. So, got it at the yard right now. It's plugged in, and the APU is going, keeping it warm. So I'm just stuck here in this hotel room. So thought we'd talk about the truck, and we'd talk about a few other things. Was sitting there reading a Gray Man novel, and he's in a hotel room, and he comes in and fights two Chinese agents, and ends up throwing one out the window and all that. Has this whole battle in here, but they got lucky and had a balcony. So yeah, I guess I'm not going to be the Gray Man this week. Just the gray-headed one. So, we're getting the truck fixed, and things have been going pretty good other than that since I've come out after the holidays. It's just been pretty steady. Got a kind of a rough start. But some of the other things that are going on with the platform, with the apps, with all this other stuff, we've been just kind of trying to figure it out because the rules are changing. Just standing here in this room wondering how a karate fight would happen because, hey, you know what? I watch a lot of movies, action movies, and it seems like there's always a hotel room getting tore up. So I thought this video we would touch on a couple of things instead of showing you all how I would clear a room. Because these are the things I think about because, well, I do this now. There was a time when I was trying to get on as a contractor to pull security on freighters in the Red Sea, but that didn't work out. Yeah, I was going to get out of trucking quite a few years ago and go contracting. I'm a little too old for that now. They want younger men, and truthfully, it seemed like a lot of adventure, and kind of wishing I could have done it. I have a friend of mine that still does it, and he's to the age now to where he has to do a physical every year. But he's still plugging away. And hey, it's honest work if you can find it. And I thought it was pretty neat. But I thought we'd talk about this year about taxes. Because, well, taxes as a truck driver are very important. Taxes as anything is very important because Big Brother is a pimp, and if you want to play, you got to pay. Now, I'm going to talk about just personal trucking taxes. A lot of my IFTA has figured into this, not too much. I'm still trying to even that out. And I decided to do this. I do a tax video every year. It's a big deal. Taxes are a very big deal, especially if you're driving truck. That's why a lot of guys usually don't survive year 2 because they owe so much on year 1 that it's just insurmountable at this point. And they're just losing it all. That's why I pay quarterly, and I have an accountant that does all my tax paperwork and my prepping and sets up my my quarterly payments. So we've talked about that before. So yeah. So what got me talking about this today is well, I thought maybe I would do it. I was going to do it when I got home, but I've got all the numbers here. And I was talking to a friend of mine who calls me, and he starts asking me about IFTA. He says, how do I owe so much on IFTA? And I said, well, where do you fill up? And he told me, and I was like, well, you don't. He says his boss told him to fill up here and there. And he's like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I'm paying more here and I'm paying more there. And I said, wait a minute, break it down. So I got on my fuel app, and I started showing him how it works. Per state, at the front of your map, if you get a trucker's atlas, it will break it down that year, what you're paying per state. Or you can get it online. It's very easy. There are a lot of trucking resources online, and that will give you a breakdown on what you pay for state, cost of fuel, things of that nature. And he owed about $300, and I said, how? Well, he told me, and he made a classic blunder, and that was that he was buying the cheapest fuel, and knowing him, he's nickel and diming it. If he gets a surcharge or he gets this, he's putting in just enough to get him to the next spot. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. When fuel's cheap, it's a bad thing. When we're doing $4 and $5 a mile fuel and the surcharge is way up, it's a great thing. And I'll share you some stories about fuel, and then we'll get back into the raw numbers here. As I've said before, when fuel gets up to $4 and $5 a gallon and my surcharge shoots way up, I can go months and never touch my base pay because my surcharge will cover all of it. But what I did notice that it doesn't matter where you're at, if you're in California or you're in Oklahoma, if you find the actual cost of fuel, it's just going to be pennies difference, because the rest is different. I remember figuring out what fuel was costing in California. Fuel in California was costing, I was paying $2.64 a gallon for fuel, and the other $3.50, $4 was literally just tax. Environmental tax, county tax, state tax, road tax, surcharge, and California adds a sales tax in there. So it's just a sliding scale to where when the price of fuel goes up in California, if the cost of fuel goes up, everything goes up with it. So it was absolutely ridiculous. But then I looked at the price of fuel elsewhere, and it was roughly the same. And a while back, I actually was trying to figure out whether I wanted to fill up in Arkansas or Missouri. The cost of fuel was a penny different. The tax was different. I actually paid more road tax in Arkansas than I did in Missouri, but the cost overall with the fuel discount was actually cheaper in Arkansas than I was paying in Missouri. So that's why I say, screw the sign. get a good fuel card in an app and figure it out, because I'll tell you right now, I pay less for fuel in Illinois than I do in Iowa. I swear. And with my discounts and all that, the pump price might be 25 or 30 cents higher, but I guarantee you I'm paying less per gallon at the end of the day. Did you ever wonder why, like, if I go out here and look at the Circle K, it's $3.16 a gallon. I look at the Love's, it's $3.85 a gallon. Yet nobody's at the Circle K and everybody is at the Love's. You ever wonder why that? Well, they inflate the price so they can give you the discount and pay you 2 cents less what you're doing at the Circle K. If I was paying cash, I'd never fill up at a Love's again. I'd be down at the Circle K filling up. But like I said, cash is no longer king. So one of the things you also have to think about is your IFTA. Now, you're wondering, now, wait a minute, if the tax is so high, why am I paying less in Illinois than I am in Iowa? Cost of gas and all those other things. We're getting screwed, don't get me wrong. So they're just knocking the discounts out and all that, bringing me down to what it would be. But like I said, the tax is still there. That's why I say, if the tax in Illinois is at 60-some% and the tax in Iowa is at 30-some cents, but I'm getting 10 cents a gallon cheaper in Illinois, top that thing off in Illinois, overpay, it'll cover everything else you do, and you'll probably get a discount, and maybe $8 or $9, but I'd rather get $8 or $9 back than have to owe 25 or 30 bucks. So what did I pay for fuel this year? Well, according to my sheet, for the whole year, I paid $53,099.91. That was after all my discounts and all that. And that also includes the surcharges and whatnot that I have to pay to use the card. Now, a lot of guys will sit there and scream, I don't want to pay to use the card, this or that. Look, guys get weird about that. I understand on a big fleet, but if you're a single guy and you're saving 10 to 15,000 a year using a card, and you're complaining about spending $700 a year to use the card, you've got your priorities mixed up. You got to spend some money to make some money. So yeah, you spent $700 this year using the card, which is about average. You're going to pay to use the card. There's going to be a surcharge, and yeah, you split that up over about 12 months. Was that $65-$70 a month, somewhere in there? I'd have to do the math, but I saved $12,000. If you're more concerned about that $700 than you are the $1,200, trucking might not be for you, or math may not be for you. But let's get to some of the other stuff. Now, the company has their own DEF pump, and I get it for about half of what we pay for at the Love's. So I bought a bunch of DEF fluid from the company, and over the period of the years, I tried to buy as much as I can from the company at the yards with their own dispensers, because it just makes sense. I'm literally getting it for half off. I gave $419.08 for it. And that alone right there, if I'd bought this on the open market, it would have been about $900. It would have been an easy $900. Then that would have been added to my fuel bill. But since it was a separate bill, I get billed separately, I itemized it separately. Now here's one of the things that I've been really thinking about doing this year, and that's getting a right way. One of the sad realities of this business is that we have to scale the trucks. And a lot of the places we go, there just aren't any scales. Or if there are scales, they're just platforms to where all they're interested in is the difference and not an accurate weight. Most of these platform scales in a lot of these places are like when I used to haul a lot of the chicken plants, like the Purdue plant or the ones down there outside of Atlanta and Rockmart and all that. They'd have scales. But like Pilgrim's Pride, they were not accurate. And they didn't care about accuracy. All they cared about was loaded and empty weights. They just needed the difference. So you can be 1,000 pounds off, yet if you're 1,000 pounds off empty, you're 1,000 pounds off loaded. They didn't care because, well, the scale did exactly what it was supposed to do. They were just worried about the difference. But the cost of scales has skyrocketed. When I started driving, scales were $5. Then they were $5.50. Then they were $6.50. Then they were $7.50, $9.50, $10. They stayed $10 for a while. Then they were $10.50, $11.50. They just now they're, good grief, what are they? $14 now. And the reways, you used to get a free reway, and now it was a dollar. Well, it was 50 cents, and then it was a dollar. Now it's what, 4.50 now, 4.50, something like. The reways are just absolutely ridiculous. And I spent $945.50 on scales. That sounds like a lot of money. That's not a lot per month. That's less than, well, it was 55, $60 a month on scales. So yeah, I spent a lot of money on scales. So I've actually been really thinking about putting, for that price, I can put a right way system in the truck, and if I have to scale, like if it's close, I'll scale it. If it's not even close, I won't. A lot of times, what I need to know is where the load is sitting rather than the actual weight. Because I've had 25, 30,000 pound loads that I've been 33.9 and like 19 because they would literally just pile it all in the front or pile it all in the back. So for that kind of price, I'm probably going to look into a right way system this year. Our trailers have them, so I think the truck probably, it wouldn't be a bad deal. So let's get to repair. Now, the repair cost is going to shock you, but that's just because I also added the tires in. I spent about $10,000 in tires. I buy good tires. I don't screw around. And when I saw how evenly this truck was wearing out its tires, I bought this truck goes perfectly straight down the road. There was even tire wear across the board. I was very impressed with what I saw with the used tires on it. So I spent the good money. I put really good Michelin's on there. And then I put really good steers too. And all in all, it's probably, to get the rest of them run out, because I blew one. I had to replace two of them because I ran over a binder in the road. And that ended up being, I spent some money on that, but I bought 2 used tires. And then I ended up spending all between 9 and 10 grand on tires this year. But like I said, I bought good tires. And then I had some repairs, but for tires, services, and all the repairs, I spent $44,230.67. You're like, that's an obscene amount of money. Yes, it is, but I put everything in there. The services haven't gotten any cheaper. You can figure between $500 and $600 for a service. So if I had 2 or 3 of those a year, that's what, $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000 they spent. So you knock that, what, 40,000, knock 10,000. That's right around repair, parts, services, and stuff like that. Just the actual repair. It wasn't too far off from last year. When you really would itemize this particular list out, it would be between $25,000 and $30,000. And spending $25,000 a year servicing, fixing, and maintaining your truck is absolutely realistic. It's about average of what you're going to do. I had a couple of repairs that, like, I had to put a new DEF filter in and a turbo actuator. Then, of course, I had my other repairs, like my clutch and things of that nature. So, all in all, I mean, the number looks really big, but it's not. When you itemize it out, it's actually fairly reasonable. A lot of it's just maintenance and the cost of doing business. I tell everybody all the time, spend the money on maintenance, do a lot of preventive maintenance, And I'll tell you right now, you're going to thank yourself that you didn't nickel and dime all this stuff to death, because spend the money up front and you're not going to spend it on the back end, and you're not going to spend it twice. So uh, it's worth it. Now, one of the things that I like to talk about is like the truck washes, for instance. Here, I only did 12 truck washes last year. It wasn't by design. It was just all I could make room for. Truthfully, if it was up to me, I'd like to wash a truck every 10 days to 2 weeks. But that's not realistic for doing what we do. I mean, a month is realistic, and if you can squeeze a second one in, that's fine. I only got 12 of them in last year because, truthfully, when I get around a place to do it, the last thing you want to do is sit 2 and 3 hours in line because you've got things to do. But those 12 truck washes cost me $841.54. This is why a lot of companies only give you one every 3 weeks or one a month, because these are expensive. And if you got these companies that have fleets of 500 to 1,000 trucks, that's one a month for a year. So you multiply that by 500. And this is why they get a little antsy about washing trucks a lot of times. Now, I did do showers and parking. I don't technically like to pay for those if I don't have to, but I do when I have to. I don't give a crap what anybody says. You should get a shower every day. I went down to breakfast this morning and somebody had neglected theirs, and they stunk and they were sour, and it was really ugh. You know, you don't want to be around those people. You don't want to be one of those people. Uh, I have enough trouble with that as it is, and I try to stay as clean as I can because, well, you would be surprised how dirty you can get in this business just sitting there in that truck, sitting, not moving, breathing that recycled air. You got to stay clean. And I only paid for what, maybe 12 showers this year. Eight to, is that one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine showers this year, and that was still $166. This is why I tell people to get a really good fuel card and get on a program to where you can get your showers for free and be in a place where you can, because that's $166 for what, 9, 10 showers over a period of the year. That's what I paid for. That It's obscenely expensive. That's why you should get on a good fuel program with a good rewards program, like I say, so you can pay for this. And here's the thing, for parking, I'll pay for parking when I have to. It's just a sad reality of this. Don't get mad about paid parking. A lot of times, paid parking is one of those deals. It's just a necessary evil with what you're doing. And I'm not even going to respond to any comments. You shouldn't have to pay. You shouldn't have to. Now, we've been over this, guys. Look, these truck stops, these places, they don't owe you a place to park. You don't have the right to park there. You have the privilege to park there. And if they choose to make it a pay lot, that's their preview or purview. And I know why a lot of guys do it. A lot of these truck stops do it. And I've said it before, like the Sapp Brothers in Omaha or the Sapp Brothers in Council Bluffs. When you saw it when it wasn't paid, it looked like the shoemakers, a wasteland and a dump full of all this local equipment. There's no place to park. Uh, that's why I don't go to shoemakers anymore. If that guy was half smart, he would make that a pay lot, because you can't even get in and out for all the junk, drop trailers, and equipment that's there that's not being used. There's no place for road trucks there. Uh, so with parking, I paid up $495.92. That's what it is. So I didn't mind paying it, but it actually, because I paid it, I ended up getting into some pretty good positions to deliver and be where I needed to be. Like I said, it's just a necessary evil, and it's just part of doing business, and it's a write-off. Now, one of the other things that I spent money on is tolls. Look, you got to figure, is paying the toll worth your time? I could have avoided 99% of these, especially that one going up through Rockford. If I didn't want to pay that toll, I could have got off on 20, weaseled around, took in Illinois 51, weaved through Rockford all the way up, come in through Beloit. And we used to do that because the boss wouldn't pay for tolls. So I can come up there through Rockford, be through that in 15, 20 minutes. Easy, boom. Or do I want to spend 45 minutes of my day trying to weave through stoplights and all of this crap just because I don't want to pay it's an $8 toll now. Is $8 worth it to me? Yes. Time is money, and on e-logs, it's absolutely money. So I paid what, $555 this year in tolls. I have a Best Pass that covers the whole country, and the only reason way I could do that was I actually needed an Easy Pass and I needed a K tag, and I didn't want to go through Illinois or Indiana and Kansas to get two separate transponders, just to have to, like, if I get a windshield. So I didn't want things that stuck to the windshield that weren't encased in plastic, but I just wanted one bill, and it just made it easier. And with the transponder and the Easy Pass that's built into it, I get a heck of a deal. I also get a heck of a deal through Kansas for using the transponder now too. Well, Kansas is automated the whole way now. Yeah. And then of course I paid for my tags. That was $2,200 this year. So let's see, is there anything else? Oh yeah, I had to put two windshields in for a total of $907.28. And my hut tax and all that. And then my per diem. If anything in this business is going to get you audited, nothing will get you audited faster than screwing around with your per diem. You have to be very, very conservative with your per diem. Never claim the max, never claim all 365 days, never. There's a formula as truck drivers we have to follow. You take how many days you were out plus what you're going to claim per day. I claim between $48 and $50 a day. We're doing 50 this year. Usually it's between $46 to $48 over the amount of days you were out, you worked. Take that full number and you can claim 80% of that. That's your per diem. And you have to be very careful. Don't go crazy with it, because nothing will trigger an audit faster than your per diem. So you have to be very, very careful about what you're doing with that. It's just, I can't tell you how many guys I know that have been audited and ended up having to owe taxes because they screwed around and the per diem was what sent up the red flag. So you got to be very careful with that. Now there's just a couple other things. I bought some parts, which ended up being $583.05, and then some truck supplies, which was $166.82. So, and then of course, some little miscellaneous stuff like EFS checks. I got to pay for the charge for that EFS. If you write a check, it's just a ripoff. They screw you. And shag fees at some of these plants. It's all drop and hook. They tell me to drop the trailer. Well, let me shake it. Well, let me load it. But then they still charge me $35 to move it around. So that's a racket there. At least I'm not paying for lumpers. That is a racket that needs to go away completely. So those are just an overview of my numbers. Those were straight up itemized numbers right off my right out of my tax paperwork. I haven't fine-tuned them yet, but those are the raw numbers. And I like doing this every year so I can show you guys what it actually costs to be in business. And you guys think I'm overpaying for it. Dude, I am cheap. But I also understand the value of a dollar. The old saying, you got to spend a little money to make money. Nothing is more true here than in truck driving. You have to spend the money in all the right places, but you can't be cheap. You just have to be thrifty. Um, you've got to spend, like I said, all the right money. The one thing you never want to do is cut corners in your truck when it comes to maintenance or repair. Never cut corners. Spend the money on good parts. That's why I buy Michelin's. Because, well, cost benefit tells me I'm going to get twice as many miles out of those as I get out of cheap set of tires. Guys get one, maybe a year out of a good cheap set of tires. I get 2 to 2.5. I can put 250,000, almost 300 on these Michelin's. I'll end up doing a set of steers. Don't try to get cheap on your insurance, which is almost an impossibility anymore. Don't cheap out on your permits. Don't cheap out on your tolls. I mean, if your truck needs it, let them have it, and be willing to work. You wouldn't believe how many guys I talk to who will flat tell me, I'm not making any money. All my boss hauls is cheap freight, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, well, I just turned down this load because I had a couple things to do. What did you have to do? I just didn't feel like leaving. Or I just didn't feel like this. Or I just didn't. And it's usually, I'm like, oh, timeout, dude. You gave up basically making $1,000 in 7 hours to do nothing. That's why I just give my advice out here in a broad spectrum and don't really talk to too many people about too much personal stuff, because it doctor my head. It just, you have to be willing to put in the work. Now, like I've said, a lot of these companies will tell you all the work you can handle, all the miles you can handle. I'm going to tell you right now, you can only work as much as they're willing to let you. But if you show yourself willing to work and really just put in your time, and you work for good people, you get a good reputation and that you're willing to work, they'll work with you. But you have to be willing to do the hustle. And I've talked about it before. The hustle is real out here. Your reputation is everything. What do you bring to the table? Now, I will be the first to admit, and if any of my dispatchers or people I work with are watching this, they'll know that I'm kind of a pain to work with. I can be. I'm very opinionated. I got my ideas and I know what I want to do. But I also understand the game. And I also understand that there are things I have to do that I don't want to do. The hustle is real. You have to be willing to hustle. But you have to be willing to hustle in the right spot. You gotta be hustling for real. Putting your eggs in the basket. You gotta be doing what am I trying to say? You gotta do it where it counts. Sitting there bitching and moaning about something inconsequential, and what that is only going to mean to you. Like, for instance, I knew I was running low on hours, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and they had some busy work. You know what? I made $1,000 that day, $1,200. I just run out a couple hours, dropped a trailer, grabbed another one, run back, grabbed another one. I made $1,000 doing just, and then turned around the next day and got a load that really only takes 11 and a half hours, turned around and made another $2,200. So, I mean, sometimes you got to do a little busy work, but sometimes you've got to hold off, find the freight. Sometimes you got to let the freight come to you. They had one load they wanted me to take. I just said no. She said, well, I got these, but I don't know if they're ready yet. They may not be ready here soon. I was like, you know what? Those are good loads, because I knew where they went and I knew what comes out of there. And sure enough, it worked out. And hey, you got to be willing to play the game. I've talked about the game before, and I'm not going to talk about it too much now. I've talked about the game. I've talked about the hustle. It's you got to be able to read the room in this business when you're dealing with dispatchers who have control over your loads, and you want something from them, but they also want something from you. And if you're a complete ass to them, they will not respond favorably. Uh, I knew that towards the end of this last year I was burning out and I needed to take some real time off. That's why I took 2.5 weeks off at the end of the last year. And it really worked out for me. Just because I needed downtime. I needed to reset, relax. Because I was getting irritable. I was getting hard to work with. And I was starting to be mean to people who didn't deserve it. I was really just not. A lot of little things were setting me off. I wasn't liking a whole lot of stuff, and then it turns out it really wasn't liking me. So I just had to take a step back. But here's the thing, guys. I didn't even work that hard this year, and those were my numbers. I don't like talking about how much I grossed and how much I netted. That's personal, and it gets into a lot of the company stuff. Realistically, in this business, you need to be making quarterly. You need to be making 50,000 plus a quarter gross, because you're going to end up paying out of that quarter. You're going to end up paying probably 65 a quarter in taxes. But here's the thing: at 50, you knock 65 out of that. What is that? 52 and a half. No, wait, 53 and a half, something like that. Math, it's a hoot. So 43. Oh, good night. But what I'm saying is, it still gives you, after you pay your taxes, it's still giving you 40 a quarter to play with, and that's not working that hard. I don't see why, if you guys get in a good spot, why you shouldn't be making 65 to 70 a quarter. You guys are like, freight is down, freight is down. Guys, freight is not down. You run in the spot market, you're hauling it too cheap, and you're hauling it for people who are taking a cut, a big cut. And I know that y'all are gonna, I really don't care about your opinion about this. I know what I'm making. But I also work for good people who pay me well. And I make, because I perform, I keep my truck up, and I run my business as efficiently as I can, I'm rewarded for it. I'm bartering my time for money. It's the American way. And I get paid well. And, it's worth it to me. And I know that freight doesn't pay in a lot of instances, and trust me, there's a couple of loads that I don't like, but I do them because, well, it gets my dispatcher out of a jam, and it gets me to a better spot to where I can actually pick it up and make some money. And the money's out here. Guys, I took 90 days off last year. Seriously. I took 90 days off last year, and my quarterlies well exceeded what I said for you guys need to make. A little food for thought. Be profitable out there, guys. Do your taxes, because if you don't, Uncle Sam, like I said, is a pimp, and he will come and he will want his money. Yep, come rain or shine, anytime, you better have my money. It's an old line from I'm Gonna Get You Sucking. You ever never seen the movie? See it. Dude was pimp of the year. That's the government. All right, so I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Be safe out there. Be profitable. Don't forget to do your taxes. You got to do your taxes. And we'll see you next video.